All right, so we're ready for the last learning target for our quadratics unit, looking at parabolas and quadratic formulas and their functions and roots and vertex and all that good stuff. So today we're going to relate the graph of a quadratic function to the equation. Okay, so I have, or in your notebooks you have, and everything I write down you write down, remember. We have 4 equations here and 4 graphs. We're asked to choose which one goes with which. But before we do that, we're going to consider each equation and record any features of its graph that are known to you just by looking at the graph, or the equation. We're not going to transform them into different forms. So here in A, I have my equation written in factored form because it's something times something. And the things I know from this, I know that my roots, also called my zeros, also called my x-intercepts, are going to be -4 and +2. Okay? How do I know this? Because I know roots are when y is 0. When y equals 0, then either A, this has to be 0, or B, this has to be 0 because of the zero product property. So -4 makes this 0, and 4 makes this 0. So x values of -4 and +2 mean or create a y value of 0. Okay, and you can write that out if you'd like. Otherwise, if you understand that, that's good. For B, I have my equation given in vertex form, which means obviously that I get the vertex. And if you remember, y equals a times x minus h squared plus k is our vertex form, and where h comma k is the vertex. And notice this is a negative h and the h is positive, or this is minus h. So my vertex is 3, 6. All right, so I know that is my vertex. And how I know it is because of the nature of vertex form. So because of vertex form. And then I'm going to look to the number C, or letter C is again in factored form. So again, I know my zeros or my roots are in this case going to be -4 and +2 again. But another thing I notice here, guys, is that my leading coefficient, or just out in front of those parentheses, is a negative. So I know that A is negative, which Taylor Fisher likes to remind us 7th period means that our parabola will be upside down, okay, which means we have a N parabola instead of a U. All right, and I know that just from the nature of factored form and the fact that A is my stretch factor. And then finally, my last one is written in general form. And general form really doesn't tell us much except for the fact that our y-intercept equals -30. Okay, so when x is 0, this will be 0, this will be 0, 7 times 0 is 0. Then y will be -30. All right, so we know that just because of what we know about y-intercepts. All right, so using that information, we are asked to decide which of these graphs goes with which of these equations. Right away, I'm going to say that C goes here because it's the only parabola we have that's an N. So I know that one, because of the reflection, is C. And also you can look, we have the roots that look like at about 2 and -4. I would say those roots are at 2 and -4 on that parabola. All right. Then let's just go for the other ones. Here, number 1, this again looks, one of our roots is a positive, smaller number than the absolute value of the negative root. So we have one more. We have this one up here. So does it look like these roots are the same here and here? I would say yes. So I'm going to go ahead and hesitantly put A there, but we might have to come back to it. B, we knew that our vertex was 3, 6, so this vertex is in the negatives, this vertex is not 3, 6, this vertex is not 3, 6, looks like this vertex is 3, 6. So looks like B should be with graph number 3. And then that leaves D with graph number 4, but let's make sure it's the case. It looks like our y-intercept here is negative 30, and that's the only thing we knew about that graph. All right, next we're asked to give these points down here, and the work's a little off. So I'm going to change this to L, this to M, this to N, and this to O, because they didn't go in order, and some of them were missing. So L, if we look here, this was one of our roots, and we know that our roots were negative 4 and 2, so this was the positive one, so that's going to be 2, 0. X is 2, y is 0. M was another root, that was the negative 4, 0. N here was the vertex, and we knew in that equation vertex was 3, 6. And then O was our y-intercept, so 0, negative 30 was our y-intercept for that graph. Okay, so this learning target is really just being able to relate equations to their graphs, and relating graphs to equations, and being able to talk about that and find some of those important pieces like roots and intercepts, either be it x or y intercepts. So for class, I want you to write 2 quadratic equations. Don't find some from the back of your notes. Write your own. Come up with whatever random numbers you think of. One in factored form and the other in vertex form. So these might seem pretty crazy. Try to challenge yourself. And then sketch a graph of each function, and we will look at them on block day.